Okay, we'll continue what we left off last week. So the basic decision rules of political systems differ along three different dimensions. And the first is geographic distribution of authority between the central government and the lower levels. You already have this. And second, the separation of powers among different branches of government. And third, limitations on government authority. And we also briefly looked at the first dimensions of political institutions. Number 3, geographic dimension of government power. And according to the geographic dimension of power, we have confederal systems at one extreme and unitary systems at the other extreme and federal systems in the middle. Okay, this was what I intended to show you. And in a confederal system, ultimate power rests with the states. Here when I say states, I mean as in the states in the United States and not the general definition of the term states. So I mean local. And the central government had authority over foreign affairs and defense, but depended on financial and other support from the states. And the United States, under the Articles of Confederation, was confederal system, meaning that states had power and resources, and central government was weak. And nowadays, among the individual state or countries, there is no confederal system, and something that is closest is European Union, but as you know, European Union is not a country yet, right? It's still an international organization, but when we look at the structure of European Union, it's fairly close to a confederal system. And this figure portrays the power relationship between the central government and the state and local governments, or provincial and local governments, with resources and power flowing from the local to the central. So resources and power, most of them reside with the localities. Moving on to the federal system, both central and state or local governments have separate spheres of authority and means to implement their powers. So the provincial or local governments can levy taxes, right? And they can have their own resources and decision-making power. And today, the United States, Germany, and Russia are federal systems, in which central and local units each have authority in particular spheres of public policy. Earlier, I said that the U.S. started out as a confederal system, right? And now it is federal. So at some point in the past, it must have changed, right? So under the Constitution of 1787, the American government changed from confederal to federal. And this figure portrays the resources and power in a federal system. And you can see that they move actually back and forth, right? So both central and local governments have resources and their own separate decision-making power. Finally, under the unitary systems, power and authority are concentrated in the central government. Not local, but central government. So it's the other end from the confederal. And the regional and local units have only those powers specifically delegated to them by the central government, which may change or withdraw these powers at will. So in a unitary system, central government delegates power or gives power to the local government. And local government can actually exercise only that power. Among the countries that we are familiar with, Britain, France, China, and Japan are unitary systems. How about us? Korea? You see Turkey over there, right? So the Korea has a unitary system as well. And maybe that's the reason why so many people want to be the president, right? Now, this figure portrays the relationship between central government and the local governments, with the power flowing down, power and resources flowing down from the central government to the local. So there are three different types as far as geographic concentration of power is concerned. Confederal, which doesn't really exist anymore, federal, and unitary. So what is your gut feeling as far as the number of unitary, say, systems is concerned? Or do we have more unitary systems or federal systems in the world nowadays? Unitary, right? Most of the world states are unitary. Most of them are unitary. And in fact, there are only 18 federal political systems in the world. So 18 federal, and then rest of the world are unitary. I can give you a visual aid. The shaded areas represent federal systems, and as you can see, large countries, right? Russia, US, Canada, Mexico, Australia, etc. And unshaded wide area represent unitary systems. Now, the weaknesses and strengths of federalism and unitarism. The federalism is commonly thought to have a number of advantages. Say in multinational or otherwise divided countries or societies, it may help protect ethnic, linguistic, or religious minorities, particularly if they are geographically concentrated. So imagine a large country with lots of different ethnic groups. Okay? Instead of having them living all together in the same area, say if those ethnic groups are concentrated in different regions, then you can make those regions, say, provinces or states, and give them the autonomy. That way, you can lessen the possibility of conflict among different ethnic groups. Okay? It may generally serve as a check on overly ambitious rulers and thus protect markets and citizen freedoms. What this means is that in a federal system, there is a lower chance of dictatorship being developing. Because there are more governments now, right? Within a single country, more local governments, more localities and provinces in a federal system. So for an individual or for a group of individuals to become, say, dictators or practice oligarchy, now you have to, say, break the powers of more governments in your country because there are many local governments, right? Whereas in a unitary system, if you have control over the central government, that's it, right? You can practice dictatorship, say, if that's what your goal is. Now, on the other hand, unitary governments may be in a better position to redistribute resources from richer regions to poorer regions if that is deemed desirable. So let me use the board here and explain. Say a country looks like this, sort of a rectangular country, right? A square-looking country. And say this particular region has lots of natural resources, say oil. So this is the oil-producing region. The rest of the country is not. And say that this is the richest, or probably the only rich province, and these are not. Okay. In a federal system, this province can keep its own wealth, right? So people in this province will live well while others are poor. In a unitary system, the central government can force this province to share its wealth with the rest of the country because central government is strong. Okay? So as far as, say, wealth distribution is concerned, probably unitary system will do a better job than the federal system. Okay, now we are done with the geographic dimension, geographic concentration of political power. Now is the time to ask questions or make comments if you have one. Yes, microphone.
사회교과 08학번 김지수입니다. 연방제를 취하면 만약에 각 주마다 미국 같은 경우 각 주마다 약간 법이나 그런 제도 같은 게 많이 다른 경우가 많은데 그럴 때 예를 들어서 뭐 범죄가 발생했을 때나 뭐 이쪽 주 사람이 다른 주에 가서 범죄를 저질렀을 때나 뭐 그런 좀 주끼리의 법을 적용하는 데 있어서 좀 약간 애매한 경우가 생기잖아요. 근데 그럴 경우에는 그럼 어떻게 처리를 하는지 미국의 사례를 들어서 좀 설명해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
Well, let me first admit that I'm not an expert in the criminal justice, but what usually happens is that the criminal laws of the state where the crime was committed prevails. So what happens is that, say, if you live in Missouri and commit a crime in Illinois and fly back to Missouri and then got captured there, usually what's going to happen is he's gonna be shipped to back to Illinois and be tried under Illinois law. So what matters is where the crime was committed, not where this person lives. Okay? And also, whenever there's a dispute over jurisdiction over any policy making, federal system always has what? The central government, federal government, that can step in and that can mediate the dispute between the states or provinces. Any other questions? Yeah, microphone.
네, 11학번 이종혁입니다. 영국이나 이태리 같은 경우에는 이제 지방색이 강해서 사회가 별로 안 좋다고 들었는데 그 경우에도 유니터리 시스템이 이제 잘 효율적으로 적용될 수 있는지 궁금합니다.
Well, as we will see later on when we go over the strengths and benefits of different types of institutions. Yes, federalism, proportional representation, and parliamentary system are better at dealing with, say, disputes across different regions or ethnic groups, etc. That does not necessarily mean that unitary system cannot deal with any of those issues. In the case of Britain, obviously the most serious problem has been Northern Ireland, right? And there the problem was primarily religious one. The Christians and Protestants, the Catholics and Protestants. They are both Christians, right? But nowadays, by giving more and more autonomy to the regions, without having to make the country's system federal, Britain's actually trying to deal with that type of issues. So Northern Ireland is getting more autonomy. Scotland just had its own elections, right? And Wales will also have more autonomy. So without having to make the whole system federal, Britain is not a big country. It can make or deal with that kind of dividing issues by giving more autonomy to the localities. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah. Do you have a microphone? Go ahead.
네, 11학번 신태연입니다. 네, 앞에서 그 페더럴리즘에 대해서 설명하시면서 보통 페더럴리즘은 넓은 영토를 가진 나라에서 약간 지역별로 에스닉 아이덴티티가 다른 그룹들이 있을 때 약간 자치를 인정해주는 그런 식의 설명을 해주셨는데요. 앞에서 우리가 배울 때 거버먼트의 필요성에 대해서 맨 첫 번째 나왔던 게 네이션 빌딩이었었잖아요. 근데 네이션 빌딩을 저는 약간 공동체적인 일체감을 만드는 걸로 이해를 했는데 그렇게 되면 페더럴리즘에서 추구하는 자치를 인정하는 것과 그 중앙 정부에서 추구하는 네이션 빌딩이 약간 상충될 수도 있을 것 같거든요.
You betcha. Yes, I would say so. And that is the reason why there is no perfect nation or world, and there's a trade-off between the priorities that we put. And I never said that the Western democracies have completed nation building process. Nation building is ongoing process. There is ethnic conflict and there is religious conflict in many what we call very, very democratic societies, advanced societies, meaning that nation building is ongoing process, and there will be no such thing as perfect nation building. Right? So we will never finish nation building process. It's always an ongoing process.